The meeting of the Aurora City Council for August 14, 2023 is called to order. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Marcano.
Present.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg. Councilmember Zvonik.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Announcement of the public call-in line.
City Council welcomes feedback from the public on both matters appearing on the agenda and during public invited to be heard. If you would like to speak and have not already spoken to an operator, please press *3. For those watching on Channel 8, call 855-695-3475 and press *3 when connected. You will hear a prompt confirming you are in line to speak to an operator and then be able to continue listening to the meeting. When the operator comes on the line, please be ready to give them your name and agenda item you wish to speak on. Keep in mind you must press star 3 before the city clerk reads the title of the item you wish to speak on. Finally, as a reminder, council does not allow comments about any items on the agenda during public invited to be heard. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, and public invited to be heard is limited to 1 hour in total.
Buenas tardes. El Consejo Municipal de la Ciudad de Aurora da la bienvenida a la opinión de sus habitantes y otros vecinos en asuntos comparecientes en la agenda y durante la invitación a la audiencia. Esta sesión tiene disponible interpretación en español. Por favor, háganos saber si usted necesita este servicio. Recuerde que el Consejo no permite comentarios de la audiencia mientras se dirigen asuntos de la agenda del día. Por favor, confirme su turno y espere a la invitación para comentario público. Gracias.
Please join me in an invocation. Dear Lord, we pray that you will bless and guide the decisions we make tonight. We pray for your wisdom and clarity of thought for everybody in the council chamber this evening. And we pray that you will bless our city with thriving industry, ample education opportunities, and sound government. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Executive session update. During executive session, we discussed a settlement offer. Proclamations and ceremonies.
Mayor,
Yes.
we need to do approval of the minutes.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We do not have that. I'm sorry. You're good. That was my mistake. You were
Let
right.
the record reflect, for once, it's not my mistake. Whereas the city of Aurora is the most diverse city in Colorado and one of the top 15 most diverse cities in the United States, and whereas Aurora supports a comprehensive strategic plan to integrate immigrant and refugee residents into the community, and whereas the city of Aurora is a nationally recognized leader in the space of immigrant integration and international programs. Thanks to the efforts of the Aurora Immigrant and Refugee Commission, the Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, and local community partners. And whereas we celebrate the month of August as International Month and our premier international event, Global Fest, on Saturday, August 19th. And whereas as part of the International Month celebrations, the city will be adding the flags of Albania, Belize, Brazil, Costa Rica, Czech Republic, Ecuador, Marshall Islands, Morocco, Puerto Rico, and Ukraine to the flag display in the lobby of the Aurora Municipal Center. And whereas, as part of the International Month celebrations, the city will host a naturalization ceremony in the council chambers on August 31st, in partnership with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. Now, therefore, I, Mike Kaufman, Mayor of the City of Aurora, Colorado, do hereby proclaim August 2023 as Aurora International Month, a witness whereof I have hereinto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Aurora, Colorado to be affixed this 14th day of August 2023. Mike Kaufman, Mayor, Aurora, Colorado. Well, Jessica, thanks so much for your leadership. And did you have something to share with us?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor, for that. And we're excited as the Aurora Immigrant and Refugee Commission to welcome the new flags on the lobby, and we'll see them at the Parade of Nations on Saturday at Global Fest. So be sure to come and participate in the wonderful music, food, lucha libre, which is new this year, so that'll be fun, from 11 to 6 on Saturday. And thank you for accepting all the communities in Aurora and the diversity that you do. And let's have fun and celebrate.
It is the event of the summer. And admission is free. It is at the Great Lawn, and it is so much fun. And it is definitely family entertainment. And it's hard to say what is the best part of it. But I think, obviously, at the beginning, the Parade of Flags is incredible to watch that. And then I think just the entertainment, the cultural dances, the music, and of course, the entire atmosphere is just incredible. And so I really encourage everybody to come. Again, at the Great Lawn, 11 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, and admission's free. Be there. Thank you. Land acknowledgement. The City of Aurora acknowledges that we gather on the territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, Arapaho, and Lakota peoples, past and present. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Indigenous people have remained committed to the stewardship of the land over many centuries. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands and to their vital place in the ecosystem are renewed and reaffirmed, and we are called to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as we continue to work to meet the needs of our entire community. Public invited to be heard. Let me read a decorum statement first. Council has created a public forum and wants to receive citizen input. Creating a public forum is not a legal requirement, but since Council has created that opportunity, our First Amendment protections apply. This forum provides the most protection for free speech and is the most scrutinized speech, this forum provides the most protected for free speech and is the most scrutinized speech by courts. You are asked to follow the same rules that Council follows. Attacks of a personal nature are not permitted. Causing a disturbance is not allowed. Children may be present or may be hearing the broadcast of this meeting. We would ask you to refrain from using profanity. The mayor has been requested by council to admonish speakers for noncompliance. We ask that you respect those who are speaking, whether you are in agreement with the content or not. Outbursts from the audience are not permitted, and we request you refrain from clapping, snapping, cheering, or booing to allow everyone the opportunity to be heard. Council shall be given opportunity to address staff, to exchange contact information when the speaker is at the podium. Council may clarify statements related to any speaker's comments at the conclusion of public invited to be heard, but shall not enter into debate with the speakers. Public invited to be heard.
We have Tim Rohawk, followed by Tanya Tabachek.
Back. Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's been 2 weeks since I last appeared here, stating that lawlessness had devastated Aurora, and that, with all due respect, I believe the mayor and the city council are responsible. I stated that I didn't think you had a plan to change things. I ask you again today, do you have a plan now? There are homeless hamlets everywhere, next to businesses, next to schools, next to 225 right down the street. Abandoned cars are everywhere. In 20 years in the auto salvage business, I have never seen so many abandoned junk cars on our city streets. I have received calls from past customers asking me to move these cars from the front of their houses. On one occasion, I went to move a car for a lady on Geneva Street, and when I ran the VIN, it came back stolen. After several days of trying to contact the city, the lady said, "Please get this car out of here, Rohak." So out of a sense of obligation to this lady, I towed it several blocks away, marked it as stolen on the windshield, and said, "Aurora, please tow away." It was ultimately towed after a week. It had been in front of her house for 6 months, and the city had promised her 4 months ago that they were going to move it. I volunteer to go into some of these areas with the help of other volunteers in the auto salvage business and tow some of these chronically abandoned vehicles and donate at least $100 for each car each of these vehicles to the city of Aurora. They can hire more police with them, whatever they can. I don't think it should be a concern of you guys if people have cars out there with 2019 temporary tags on them and they've walked away from these cars. I would need help to verify the VIN numbers from APD, but the cleanup could begin. These measures may seem extreme, but these are extreme circumstances. At least this is a plan. People are living in these cars with guns, dope, and bad intentions. School starts now, and these neighborhoods need serious attention now. The political fallout from this could be huge. I realize council members only make a couple grand a month, and the mayor only makes $7,200 or so a month. But the prestige and the status and the responsibilities of your jobs that they confer on you is considerable. You need to do something soon. Other cities are beginning to mobilize to combat these problems of homelessness, lawlessness, and carnage, and Aurora doesn't need to be any further behind. And I even beat the 3 minutes, Mayor, so.
Very good. Katie, if you could forward me his contact information. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I know last time I left before anybody said anything, and I don't know what protocol is, but I tried to put on a nicer shirt tonight to.
You look great. You look great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So.
Okay.
I'm going to be back in 2 weeks, so I hope there is a plan by then. Thank you.
Okay.
Tanya Tabachek.
Hello, my name is Tanya Tabachek. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My main topic today is dealing with veterans. I've already reached out to Councilor Connell and Doretsky and the mayor regarding veterans and being 50% above disability and the time frame to get what they need to get the disability tags. I know that my dad reached out like over a month and a half ago to Congressman Crow's office, Bennett's office, and the veteran number that was provided to me. No one has ever called us back. And to me, the way that, once you get that letter from the VA, it should go direct, if it's 50% and above, it should go directly to the DMV. And it's up to that person if they want to pursue it or not. But we're getting the runaround, no one's calling us back. And it's just ridiculous for someone that has served over 24 years and been in Vietnam and has not gotten a response back. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
That was the last individual.
A motion is in order for adoption of the agenda.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
motion to approve the agenda with a delay of 2 weeks for items 11A2, 11A3, and 11A4.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
second.
I don't believe it requires a second, does it?
Yes.
It does.
You're modifying the
Okay, very well. Further discussion? I see none, then, so is he tabling or so to a date certain? So
to a date certain.
to a date certain, 2 weeks from today. Very well. The motion before us is approval of the consent calendar for motions and item number 10A1, 10A5.
Mayor, wait, I'm sorry, Mayor. We were approving the agenda, so we have the motion
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
second. We need to vote.
Okay. Well, in that, so in the approval of the agenda, we're
Yep.
moving,
Equal 2, 3, and 4.
The motion was to approve the agenda, removing items 11A2, 11A3, and 11A4,
Very well.
and tabling those for 2 weeks.
very well. Further discussion?
Mayor,
See-
I'm sorry.
Councilmember
One
Connor.
clarification. Would it be to continue the items rather than table?
Yeah.
Continue to a date certain, right?
Thank you.
Very well.
2 weeks.
Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question.
Mayor Kaufman,
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Yes.
The motion passes to adopt the agenda with items 11A2, 11A3, and 11A4 delayed until the next council meeting.
Consent calendar motions, item number 10A1 to 10C1, well, with the exception of item number 10A2, 10A3, 10A4. Oh, I'm sorry. 11A. We just did consent calendar. Okay. Okay, adoption of the consent calendar. Item 11A1, 11A5, 11A6 through 10A8.
Mayor, this
point
would
of order.
be,
Yes.
Don't we need to first vote on the motions, then the rest of those?
yep, so this would be for the consent calendar for motions, items 10A1 through 10C1.
Mayor,
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
move to approve the consent calendar, items 10A1 through 10C1.
Second.
Very well. It's been moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by, who seconded the?
Mayor Pro Tem.
And by Mayor Pro Tem Gardner to approve item number 10A1 through 10C1.
Mayor Kaufman.
Discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Seeing no discussion, call for the question on the approval of consent calendar for motions.
Mayor Kaufman? How do you
Mayor
vote?
votes
Yes? Okay, thank you. The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for motions.
Consent calendar resolutions and ordinances, item number 11A1 to 11B3.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem.
motion to approve 11A1 through 11B3.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
second.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 11A1 to 11B3. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
just wanted to formally clarify that that's as amended with 2, 3, and 4 removed.
Very well. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances 11A1 to 11B3.
Mayor, we have an individual who wants to speak on item 11A8.
Very well. 11A8.
Okay, Tanya Tabachek.
Sorry, I apologize again, afternoon. I am just wanting to state on this just to be relevant and open to the public and to let them know exactly the pros and cons, because I myself, I'm learning a lot about what, strong mayor is and what that run by a city manager and so forth. And I just want all transparency. And like my mom says, it's up to the citizens of Aurora. Like, okay, well, I just want to just overall understanding of what it means. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances 11A1 to 11B3.
Councilmember Sundberg. The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances with items 11A2, 11A3, and 11A4 removed.
Would the clerk now please read the title for item number 12A?
Item 12A is a public hearing and consideration of Resolution 2023-94, approving the service plan for Murphy Creek Industrial Metropolitan District and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Aurora, Colorado and the district.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
Good evening, Chesarina Dancy, Senior Project Manager with the Office of Development Assistance. A service plan for the Murphy Creek Industrial Metropolitan District has been submitted. The proposed district is located adjacent to E470, northwest of South Gun Club Road and East Mississippi Avenue. This district is to service 70-acre industrial site, and no residential is planned. The proposed service plan and associated IGA are in compliance with the city's approved model. Staff is happy to answer any questions. We also have representatives of the district here for a brief presentation as well.
Very well. We'll proceed to a presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, council members. Appreciate being here tonight to hear this matter. I'm not going to repeat much that Chesarina mentioned, other than this district is entirely industrial, no residential component, approximately 70 acres and 1 million square feet of industrial project. We are in full compliance with the model service plan and are here tonight because we don't have another organizational and debt election for another year after this November. Here tonight with me is Megan Kronickfeld. I probably said that wrong, even though she's my client, but she's got a new last name, to answer any specific questions relative to the development, but appreciate your consideration this evening. Sure. And obviously here for any questions to the extent you have them.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Megan Kronickfeld. She said it right. I'll be really brief. We, as Megan said, we're proposing 70 acres of industrial for this site. We are preparing our master plan for the project, and we'll be planning to submit that later this fall. We had a pre-application meeting with the city and plan to move forward with further entitlement applications, like I said, this fall. But 1 million square feet of industrial, all commercial uses for this project, and looking forward to another development within the city of Aurora. So thank you.
Is there anybody who wishes to be heard on this issue?
No.
Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So we had the question at the last meeting just about the fact that there isn't really service plan information, so it still feels fairly vague for kind of the ask of $24 million in debt service authority. So what infrastructure is going to be constructed with $24 million?
I will defer to the applicant on that.
Thank you for that question. So the infrastructure that we are anticipating includes roadway extension and expansion of Gun Club Road along the site, the potential for Exposition Avenue to be installed on the north end of the property, which was a comment from our pre-application meeting. And more prominently, we are directly adjacent to Murphy Creek, which we are anticipating some level of improvement required to that creek system, which would necessitate a district, in addition to utility extensions and kind of all the general district eligible costs, but Murphy Creek in particular for this project is one item that will require significant coordination with staff and Mile High Flood District through the master plan process. And we've got, engineers and cost estimates, budgetary cost estimates for those things right now that will be determined and kind of finalized through the master plan and site plan and construction document process. But we feel comfortable kind of with the range of debt and the limit that we've set within the district that there's enough room there to accommodate those improvements.
Further questions of staff?
Follow-up.
Councilmember Coombs.
So the $24 million number is based on kind of the anticipated specific needs, not just kind of a general requesting of maximum amounts, and then we'll see later what happens.
Yeah, it's been based on where we are in the project, very, I would say, general budget detail for those specific items, but we're fairly clear on the offsites that will be required based on those conversations with staff and Mile High Flood District to date. So we've budgeted those and think that we have, a set and okay limit for a 70-acre project, that those budget numbers will be finalized, once we're a little bit closer to construction, but that we feel very comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of staff for the applicant? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
move to approve 12A.
It's moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by?
Medina.
Seconded by Councilmember Medina to approve item number 12A. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of item number 12A.
Councilmember Sundberg. The motion passes.
With his father.
Okay, the motion passes to adopt item 12A, resolution 2023-94.
Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 12B?
Item 12B is public hearing consideration of resolution 2023-95, approving the service plan for the First Creek Powhatan Metropolitan District numbers 1 through 12, and authorizing the execution of an IGA between the City of Aurora, Colorado, and the districts.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
The First Creek Powhatan Metropolitan District numbers 1 through 12 have submitted a service plan for consideration. The proposed district is located approximately southeast of Gun Club Road and East Colfax Avenue, as well as southeast of East 26th Avenue and Powhatan Road. The district is to serve a 981-acre site consisting of both residential, commercial, and industrial uses. The expected population is 9,533 residents. The service plan and the associated IGA are in compliance with the city's model, and we also have a presentation by the applicant.
A presentation by the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is George Rowley. I'm legal counsel for the applicant for this district. I have a quick presentation if you about the districts. We'll go through rather quickly, and then we'll be available to answer questions. I also have members of the development team here with me, Dane Hill, who is with the developer, Shelby Noble, who is the with the Piper Sandler, the financing for the district, and Mark Saval with for civil engineering. Excuse me. As you can see, this is a fairly large project with the 981 acres of developable property. You can see from the map the location, with some of the property being a little bit north of I-70, but the bulk of it being south. As was mentioned, it's a mixed-use project with commercial, residential, and industrial uses, population of 9,553 people, and we expect to build out at approximately 2035. Oops. Here's another map of the project showing the different uses that are anticipated for the project. The petitioner has been in talks with the city, has submitted the pre-application, and is in the process of responding to comments from staff. We plan to have the master plan submitted next month in September, and would also like to mention that the developer does have a good track record of completing large master plan communities in places like Florida and Arizona. We've proposed a multiple district structure because of the size of the project. This way we can use different districts for different types of development, the commercial, mixed use, and industrial, and also use it to phase the project over time rather than trying to issue debt and build everything all at one time. The reason for this, again, is because of the size of the project and for the length of the build out. And this will also help ensure that all the public improvements get built over time. We have substantial public improvement costs of $532 million. These are all going to be the responsibility of either the district or the developer. The city won't be responsible for any of this, and we want to make sure that development pays its own way. Some of the extraordinary public improvement costs include some drainage channel improvements along 3.3 miles of First Creek and some of its tributaries, some crossings of those of First Creek and its tributaries, as well as some stormwater management facilities that are fairly substantial. There are a bunch of traffic signalized intersections that need to be funded, as well as a 4.4-mile extension of the First Creek sanitary interceptor, which will have to cross Interstate 70. The debt capacity for the districts is $900 million. I know that seems like a lot, but that's for all 12 of them. And so combined, the 12 could not issue more than that. And ultimately, it's the market who's going to really determine how much debt gets issued over that period of time. There are financial protections for future residents in the service plan. There's a mill levy cap of 50 mills. There's a maximum debt mill levy imposition term of 40 years. Again, the debt limitation. There's limitations on privately placed debt, when that can be issued and under what circumstances, including making sure that we have a letter from a financial advisor that would opine to the interest rate on that debt to make sure it is market. And there's also restriction in the service plan that wouldn't allow the district to issue any debt or impose a mill levy until the city approves a development plan for the project. Also wanted to emphasize transparency that's required for these districts. These are things that are required by statute and also by the service plan, and help to make sure people understand what they're getting into when they buy into a district. Districts are required to have a website with certain information on it by statute. Builders are required to provide disclosures to the purchasers. Districts have open meetings and open records. The elections are open to the public. There's a new requirement for an annual meeting where the financial status of the district is discussed, as well as any bonds that are outstanding and any public improvements that are currently under construction. We also record disclosures so that when people buy homes, those will show up on their title reports so they can be aware of the district and its mill levy and such. Annual reports are also required to be provided to the City of Aurora each year, as well as to other governmental entities. In short, we think districts fill a void to finance things that other public entities cannot or will not, and they're able to do it with tax-exempt bonds at a lower cost of borrowing than they could get in another market. And it also allows to spread the cost of those public improvements over 30 years so that those people who are benefiting initially and also people who are benefiting after the first few years are all paying for those improvements. With that, I'll available to answer any questions, or we can have others answer questions as well.
Questions of staff or the applicant? Oh, I'm sorry. First, is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this?
No.
Very well. I do have one question for the applicant, and that is, what do you mean by 50 mills and then paren as adjusted?
The mill levy is 50 mills, but can be adjusted if there are changes in the way that the assessment ratio is calculated over time. There have been changes either statutorily in the past or through what's been known as the Gallagher Amendment, and that would allow it to change, to adjust for any changes that might happen legislatively or, well, I guess legislatively at this point.
Okay. Further questions of staff or the applicant?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank the applicant for clarifying. I misunderstood in our last meeting that the 900 million was per each of the 12 districts. It's total for all of them. So thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
A lot of times when we see these, it is per district that number is presented. But my other question is around the initial district boundaries being 3 acres out of 981 acres. I understand that phasing is necessary and that you need to have some flexibility, but I do question whether the need for flexibility is that extreme that only 3 acres would be originally included. So can you elaborate on why such a small inclusion area to begin with?
Yeah, so until there's more known about the zoning and approvals from the city in terms of what will be built where, we don't know which districts will be needed where. So really, it's just a decision of, we need to initially put these somewhere and kind of set them on the shelf, if you will, and then as development starts, we don't know for sure if it's going to start on the north side or the south side, east, west at this point. Then we have the flexibility to take one of those districts that's only a quarter acre at this point and then expand its boundaries to include that property that's going to be developed first. And we would just do that over the length of the project, depending on what type of property is going to be developed and where it's going to be developed. So there's a process called inclusions and exclusions that can happen to change district boundaries over time.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So just as a follow-up for the benefit of the public, can you clarify what that process looks like for inclusions and exclusions of area for the districts?
So there's an inclusion process in the statute, and it requires that the 100% fee owner of the property submit a petition to a district and request that their property be included into that district. Once that happens, we would set a hearing date for that district. We publish a notice that says we've received this petition. They've requested that it be included into the district. and then the district holds a public hearing on that inclusion. There are certain statutory findings that need to be made, and then they make a determination whether or not to include that property or not. It then goes to the district court, and then finally to the county clerk and recorder to be recorded if it's approved.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff for the applicant? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, and a motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Medina.
motion to approve 12C.
Moved by Councilmember Medina, seconded by
Jurenski.
Councilmember Jurenski to approve item number 12C.
Mayor, correction, this is item 12B.
I'm sorry, 12B.
12B, correct.
I'm sorry. Wait. Okay. Item number 12B. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on item number 12B.
Councilmember Jurenski? Thank you. The motion passes to adopt item 12B, Resolution 2023-95.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 12C.
Item 12C is public hearing and consideration of ordinance 2023-36, rezoning a parcel of land measuring 22.4 acres more or less at the southeast corner of Tower Road and East 32nd Parkway from Business Tech District I-1 to Mixed Use Corridor District MUC, and amending the zoning map accordingly.
Public hearing is now open. Presentation by staff.
Question mark?
Thank you, council members. My name is Eric Gates, and I'm a planner with the Planning and Development Services. Before you is a request for a zoning map amendment for the rezoning of approximately 22.4 acres in Adams County from the I-1 Business Tech District to the MUC Mixed Use Corridor District. The area is located within the Majestic Commerce Center Framework Development Plan and overall development area. So here's the current zoning of the area. As you can see, the site is surrounded by the MUC Zone District to the north and west, to the I-1 District to the east, and I-70 to the south. The site is also surrounded and completely within the commercial hub place type of the Aurora Places Comprehensive Plan. And here is the site should the rezoning be approved. The zoning designation has been proposed in anticipation of future commercial development for this site, supporting the broader Majestic Commerce Center development. And the proposed MUC zoning allows for some commercial uses not allowed in the I-1 zone district, most notably hotel uses. And this item was heard and unanimously recommended approval from the Planning Commission at their July 26th hearing. Staff also recommends approval based on the review criteria of Section 146-541C313. And yeah, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there an applicant on this? Is there a presentation by the applicant?
No.
That's correct. Does anybody wish to be heard on this issue?
No.
Are there questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the presentation. I'd like to know a little more about Exhibit D, the conceptual site layout. We have something labeled Recreation Center. Can you talk a little more about that?
So the conceptual site layout is kind of just illustrative of what might show up there. At this time, we've not received any kind of application or even pre-application for a rec center. That was provided by an applicant. It's conceptual only, not a guarantee of what will go in there.
Okay, so this would be for a private facility?
Correct, yeah.
Center. All right, great, thank you.
That would be my understanding.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed, and a motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
motion to approve 12C.
Been moved by Councilmember Bergen, seconded by?
Mayor, second.
Seconded by Councilmember Lawson to approve item number 12C. Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 12C. Call for the questions.
Councilmember Sundberg? Thank you.
Thank you.
The motion passes to adopt item 12C, introduction of ordinance 2023-36.
Thank you.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 13A.
Item 13A is introduction of ordinance 2023-37, authorizing the Chief Information Technology Officer to acquire certain tangible and intangible information technology property during the 2023 fiscal year, either by purchase or pursuant to the terms of lease purchase agreements to be entered into between the city as lessee and lease investors, vendors, or the Aurora Capital Leasing Corporation, each as lessor, authorizing officials of the city to take all action necessary to carry out the transactions contemplated hereby.
Brief presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Scott Newman, the Chief Information Officer for the city. I do not have a presentation, but briefly to speak to the item. This is an annual requirement after working with City Legal, the Finance Department, and outside bond counsel. It was recommended that the city authorize IT to enter into lease purchase agreements on an annual basis. This is to satisfy some of the IRS tax reporting requirements around non-tangible and tangible properties that we may enter into leases for. This is simply an annual requirement to renew our authority to do so. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions to staff? Seeing none, motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Drinsky.
motion to approve item 13A.
Moved by Councilmember Drinsky, seconded by
Coombs?
Councilmember Coombs to approve item number 13A. Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 13A. Call for the question.
Councilmember Sundberg?
You're muted, Councilmember Sundberg.
Councilmember Sundberg, did you say yes? Okay. The motion passes to adopt item 13A, introduction of ordinance 2023-37.
Will the clerk now please read the title, item number 13B.
Item 13B is introduction of ordinance 2023-38, amending sections 54-121 and 54-131 of the City Code pertaining to ballot initiatives.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. So this pretty straightforward ordinance defines that all items referred to the ballot, whether it's initiated by the city or by a citizen through a petition, must follow single subject rules. And I know the city attorney's office is available for questions.
Questions of staff? Seeing none, motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 13B.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by?
Marcano.
Seconded by Councilmember Marcano. Discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 13B. Call for the question.
Katie, Councilmember Sundberg won't be returning, just so you're aware.
Thank you. The motion passes to adopt item 13B, introduction of ordinance 2023-38.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 13C.
Item 13C is introduction of ordinance 2023-39, prohibiting the selling or disposing of dogs or cats other than those obtained from an animal shelter, nonprofit humane society, or nonprofit animal rescue organization. And we do have public comment for this item.
Councilmember Jurinsky.
Well, I would like to hear the public comments, I think.
Okay, brief presentation by, what is protocol?
We have individuals from the public who would like to speak.
Public comment first?
Yeah, that has to
Very
be
well.
first.
The first person that we have for this item is Jens Larson, followed by Jessica Nab.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jens Larson. Thank you for having me up here, council members and Mayor Mike Kaufman. I graduated from CSU in 1985. I have a degree in wildlife biology and fisheries. I own a pet store in Centennial, Colorado now called Perfect Pets. We have an A+ with the Better Business Bureau for over 20 years. I pay all my taxes on time. I'm sorry about the store at Aurora Mall that didn't. Not all people are evil or wrong that are in this business. I've never had any violations or citations against me. The ordinance banning the sale of puppies and kittens by licensed and regulated breeders that sell to pet stores is just wrong. Last year, this ban was proposed at a state level with lots more discussion and lots more details brought forward, and it did not pass. I didn't even find out about this till last Wednesday. I'm in the city of Centennial, and why am I here? Because there's a national thing going around to go to city council and just persuade people to think that we are evil and we are doing things wrong. All the breeders I deal with are licensed and regulated. That got changed several years ago, as there was a store called Puppies and Stuff on 104th who was buying dogs from backyard breeders, people who are not licensed, and was having lots of problems with their dogs. So PACFA, Pet Animal Care Facility Act, pretty quickly enacted a policy that we can only buy from licensed and regulated breeders. Those are not the people you find on Craigslist. Those are not the people you find on the internet where you get scammed 80% of the time. I am in my store almost every day. I have a storefront on Arapahoe and University. I would invite each and every one of you to come out and say hi to me. I'll show you every single thing I do. I understand not all pet stores are created equal. There's lots of businesses that aren't equal. There's certain King Supers I don't go to in certain parts of town, okay? I go to others that are nicer and people are friendlier. That's just me. How is it possible that someone follows all the rules set by government officials and inspectors and then is told that they are running an unethical business? So again, the breeders are USDA licensed and state inspected. And in Colorado, we all have to be part of PACFA, which is a very, very good situation that we have. Not all states have that. And I served on PACFA for 12 years representing retailers. Now, I know another thing that came forth recently is that we are responsible for all the overcrowding of the shelters and all the animals you see. I challenge you tonight to go home and look at those videos like I do, every single one of them. And to a T, you will see pit bulls and pit bull mixes. Now, we don't need any discussion about certain breeds, but I sell pugs, I sell Bernese Mountain Dogs, I sell Golden Doodles, I sell Shih Tzus, I sell dogs with great personalities. I sell dogs to very well-known people in the Denver community that come to me, and they're not ashamed to buy a dog at a pet store. We once sold...
Thank you, sir. You're past your 3 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You're past your 3 minutes.
That quick?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just finish up then.
Well,
So
sorry.
please reconsider what has been brought forth. I think I might be the only person here representing pet stores tonight, and I do have a lot more to say.
Thank you very much.
Please just don't go with, what you hear as far as hearsay and things like that go.
Thank you.
All right,
Jessica
thank you very
Knapp.
much. I appreciate your time.
Followed by Lauren Rumbach.
Hello, my name is Jessica Knapp, and I'm declining to give my address because I don't want hate mail from special interest opposition, but I've spoken here before. First, I want to thank you all for your time on the preventative pet store ordinance and for your unanimous decision to move this ordinance forward to this first reading. I'd like to thank Council Members Marcano and Jurinski for sponsoring this, and I think Mr. Vaughn has done a wonderful job on this ordinance, and I think it fully encompasses the interests of the city of Aurora. One of the interest groups you've heard of, PAN, is based in Virginia, and they are advocating for the CCC, which was formed in Indiana for the purpose of improving standards for their puppy mills. The CCC original funding all came from groups with monetary interest in puppy mills, and it is now donation-based. It referenced that their breeders must be USDA licensed, but many are not. The one breeder that is cited with a testimonial on their own website is not USDA certified. A goal of the CCC is to have more socialized dogs, but they do not use animal behavior specialists for audits. They use Validus for their audits, which is a food and produce inspection company, and they do not disclose their audits to the public, so there are no public records. There is no transparency and no public record of the methods used to determine the socialization of these dogs. There are no inspection reports with the CCC and no list of trained, unbiased professionals performing the audits. Additionally, the CCC mills set their own veterinarians, which is absolutely not an unbiased practice. They also determine their own fees. The CCC has no enforcement authority. It is simply an expectation. There are pet stores in Colorado Springs that use CCC puppy mills, and they receive constant backlash and protests from the public. The NAIA is based in Oregon, and you've also heard from them. And Oregon, ironically, just became the 7th state to pass a statewide pet store ban. They're stating that our rescues and shelters are poorly run, so we should just have pet stores. To that, I'd like to say Aurora did have a pet store, and it resulted in $86,000 owed in back taxes. 44 puppies had to be auctioned off, and the community had to care for the sick animals that were in the store. We have never had any of that happen with shelters or rescues. I simply think the fundamental problem that this ordinance is answering is that we, local individuals and council members, think it is ethically unacceptable to have a pet store here because, as we have seen, they source from puppy mills, and we do not support that. I'm asking that you stick to Mr. Vaughn's very well-written ordinance and your unanimous decision to move this forward. I would love for this council and city to set the precedent and be the model for other major cities on this issue. This is our chance to pass this ordinance preventatively, and I really want it to be preventative. I don't want to affect a business. Thank you.
Lauren Rombach, followed by Janice Witter.
Good evening, council members. Tonight I would like to reiterate why this proposed ordinance is so vital to our community and to our state. I do not earn a cent from doing this work. Out-of-state lobbyists do not deserve a seat at the table in our community. I'm talking about PAN and NAIA. They speak on behalf of pet stores, not pets. Nearly 5,000 puppies were imported into Colorado to be sold in pet stores in 2022. According to Bailing Out Benji. While rescues and shelters are in crisis right now, Pet Ranch in Thornton imported the most at 1,107. Perfect Pets imported 1,028. Both Pet Ranch and Perfect Pets use a broker named Nebraska Land Pets. They are located in Atkinson, Nebraska, and are owned by Angie and Casey Schaff. The Colorado Pet Store Consumer Protection Act requires pet stores to list the breeder's federal and/or state license number. We know that Perfect Pets is not following the spirit of the law. Pictures of cage cards on July 16, 2023 showed a USDA license number on the card that was not in the correct format, nor was it the breeder's USDA license number. Each dog listed for Nebraska Land had a different number. Customers would not be able to find Nebraska Land on the USDA public tool if they wanted to, nor would they be able to know how bad the breeders are that they use. A PACFA complaint was filed. This is why we need local ordinances. Pet Ranch is taking out ads in the Denver Post stating that they don't source from puppy mills, when in fact they do. This broker, Nebraska Land, that both source from is a middleman that buys puppies from breeders and sells them to pet stores. 2 of their breeders are on the Humane Society's Horrible 100 list of the worst of the 10,000 puppy mills. The breeders are AJ's Angels in Minnesota and Cindy Huber's South Dakota. Another breeder, Caleb Mulder in Iowa, has violations in 2022 for using expired medications. A 4th breeder, Mike and Trish Joustra, Minnesota, had violations for an enclosure that had a grate floor with 1 by 1 inch openings that the puppy's feet and legs could fall through. As you can see, we don't need the Pet Advocacy Network or NAIA speaking on behalf of egregious pet stores or any more pet stores opening in our community. Please vote to move this ordinance forward. Thank you very much.
Janice Witter, followed by Tanya Tabachek.
Good evening, council members. My name is Janice Whitting, and I am a 40-year resident of the city of Aurora, and I just wanted to lend my support to the passage of this ordinance as a preventative measure. Thank you.
Tanya Tabachek, followed by Thomas McBride.
Evening. I just wanted to acknowledge in support of this measure. I'm a proud owner of 3 dogs, all 3 of our dogs we got from shelters. I've been reading up on this ordinance a little bit on different things, and basically some of the things is saying that with the pet stores, I know I've never gotten a pet recently from the pet store, but it was just, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. But a lot of the pet stores, the breeders, if they get from breeders, are not really from the reputable breeders, some of them. And the dogs that are bred, they're like put in like cages and they're not fed well and so forth. So my support is for this bill. Thank you.
Thomas McBride, followed by Ryan Knapp.
Bless you.
Not too many years ago, you never would have seen me in here. I was terrified of getting in front of a microphone and speaking to a city council until I discovered the problems with puppy mills. And I realized that had to be brought forward, that puppy mills are horrible, horrible, inhumane businesses, and selling them through the pet stores is not a good business model. I had this all thought out earlier, but there are so many issues with the dogs coming out of these puppy mills and being bought by brokers who go from state to state buying dogs. And they'll load them up in a cargo van, a box truck, and travel from state to state selling these dogs. If one dog is in that truck is sick, many of those dogs will be sick. In Des Moines, Iowa, they had an outbreak of canine brucellosis that infected 150 people from a dog that was bought at a pet store. And of course, all the family, all the neighbors came to see the beautiful new puppy, and they came down with brucellosis. So I would love to see you guys move this forward and ban the sale of puppy mill puppies in pet stores. There are so many rescues, breed-specific rescues, that you can buy dogs from. My daughter is on her 2nd Labrador Retriever from Safe Harbor Lab Rescue. So, they're wonderful dogs. Thank you.
Ryan Knapp, followed by Roland Halpern.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess none of you began your political career thinking you were going to hear this much about puppies. You know, I think that this is a perfect example. These folks back here have done a great job with all their research and all their facts. There's not much I can add to that. But I think this is a perfect example of why local politics is so important, right? Why voting at the local level, voting for our council and our mayor is so important. This is not the the kind of sexy topic that's going to show up on the debate stage during next year's campaign cycle, right? So this is, you'll hear the opposition throw words around, killing small business, that kind of thing that does kind of bring it into the more national spotlight. This isn't about killing small business, right? This is about continuing in a progressive way. I'm a Colorado native. I've seen throughout my life how the state's changed. And, not passing progressive ordinances, I think, is not only not moving forward, it's taken a huge step back. We've seen in the plans going, with the development plans, the amount of money and the amount of people that are moving into Aurora, it's going to boom. It's going to continue to boom over the next decade, over the next, till 2035, when the plan was. We don't want to take a step back and show, that Colorado is not the progressive state that everybody knows that we are. So we've 7 states around the country right now have banned it at the state level. I think in Aurora being correct me if I'm wrong, the 3rd most populous city in the state, I think that you folks have extra responsibility, right? You're not only representing your constituents within your wards, within your districts, but you're also representing kind of the voice of the state as well. So I think you have, special responsibility and special power where if you are moving forward with these sorts of progressive measures, it's going to be the model for other cities and other, smaller towns to do the same thing, and then we can take it to the state level, right? So we can get it passed at the state level and not have to go to city councils the way that, that was described tonight. So, I encourage you to listen to the facts, not be swayed by special interests, and move this forward. I appreciate it.
Roland Halpern.
Mayor Kaufman, distinguished council members. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said, so I won't reiterate, but I do want to say my name is Roland Halpern. I'm the Executive Director of Colorado Voters for Animals. Our nonpartisan, nonprofit, all-volunteer organization represents over 42,000 supporters in Colorado, 1,972 of whom live in Aurora. On behalf of our Aurora supporters and others across the state, we are asking for your support in passing 2339, which would prohibit the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats from pet stores operating in the city. The commercially bred dogs and cats on display in pet stores may appear healthy, and hopefully they are, but the parents that breed them may be anything but. Not a week goes by that there's not another story on the horror of puppy mills. Today, in fact, quote, feds cite local puppy mill over fatally neglected dogs. That's from Ohio. August 8th, feds find dogs with rotting teeth, moldy food at a local puppy mill. That's from Iowa. August 1st, feds find neglected dogs at Douglas County Puppy Mill. That's in Illinois. Often these breeding animals are so abused that the only humane option is to euthanize them and end their misery. And the cruelty can extend far beyond. Breeding dogs in cages bark and make noise. It not only draws attention to the fact there is a puppy mill operating, but can annoy the owners. It is not unheard of to debark a dog, shoving a metal pipe down its throat to sever its vocal cords. And when the breeding dogs are used up, the lucky ones might find their way to a shelter or rescue, but others are simply abandoned or shot and treated like garbage. There are approximately 100 USDA inspectors nationwide tasked with overseeing 8,000 licensed individuals in facilities that include zoos, aquariums, research laboratories, and dog breeders. So when we hear that that dogs come from USDA-approved inspectors, it's not saying much. If you do the simple math, 8,000 facilities, 100 people, it's just impossible to regulate them all. Although it doesn't involve puppy mills, there was an incident involving Wilson's Wild Animal Park in Winchester, Virginia, where the USDA gave them a clean bill of health with no violations whatsoever. The following day, the state shut them down, seized 120 animals, some of which had to be euthanized, and charged the owner with 93 counts of animal cruelty. And this was a facility that the USDA gave a clean bill of health on. To date, 450 cities have banned the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats, and 3 states have banned sales completely. Aurora should join that growing number of cities that recognize selling commercially bred dogs and cats is simply wrong. Again, on behalf of the 1,972 supporters and undoubtedly many thousands of other Aurora residents who believe dogs and cats are not intended to be breeding machines, I hope you will vote to ban the sale of commercially bred dogs and cats in Aurora. Thank you for your time and attention.
And we have one person on the call-in line.
Joyce, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Joyce Cohen. I sit on the advisory board for PACSA. I'm also responsible for 11 of the 12 towns that have passed this ordinance. And just briefly to correct Roland, it's up to 7 states that have passed this on a statewide level. You know, unfortunately, there's no feasible way for a pet store to be successful without buying from puppy mills. And pet stores may not be evil. They may treat their animals wonderfully, But unfortunately, the puppy mills where they get these animals do not. And as Roland said, everything that you heard him say is perfectly legal under USDA guidelines. It's legal to keep the dog in a cage its whole life, never letting it out. A cage only 6 inches larger than the dog, wire mesh cages stacked one on top of another so that the animals above urinate and defecate on the ones below, and they're never taken out of their cages. All this is perfectly legal. And PACFA has no control over what goes on in other states. They only regulate what goes on in Colorado. So they don't have any say over how these animals are treated until they get to Colorado. And like I said, the pet stores probably treat the animals very well. But we're not talking about the puppies. We're talking about the parent animals. You know, Colorado is ripe for a lot of pet stores looking to relocate now that the whole West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and California have passed the legislation on a statewide basis. Those stores are looking for a place to relocate. Colorado needs to take action. And maybe this time, because of that, the state will reconsider this on a statewide basis. But until then, each town we go to and passes this ordinance sends a message to the state that they do need to do something on a statewide basis. This is getting to be a real growing concern. I urge you to look at the facts. Don't believe these lobbyists who, again, are paid just to promote legislation or actually to fight any legislation that promotes humanely treating animals. So although I am not a citizen of Aurora, I urge you guys to put morality over money and pass this ordinance. Thank you.
That was the last individual.
Questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember Murillo?
Bergen.
Oh, Bergen, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I understand all the concerns about the pet stores and where the pets come from, the conditions, obviously, that they're in the stores, in the cages and so forth. My question is, and we don't want, any of the puppy mills to be sending pets to Colorado. I guess my question is, how do we regulate rescues? We've always had rescues in my family. Our current dog came from a rescue, but now it's making me wonder. I don't think I did my proper homework on the rescue. They certainly did their homework on us. But how do we know that the rescues that are out there, and I think most of them are very good, but there's probably a few that are not. How are they regulated and inspected?
Rescues are regulated and inspected by PACFA. They're the organization that will do that. And then if we get any kind of complaints on a criminal nature, then Animal Services for Aurora would be able to handle that.
Okay, but that was the same organization that was just stated in terms of that they're not able to regulate pet stores.
USDA, that's what does countrywide. PACFA, state of Colorado only.
So PACFA is the one that regulates the rescues?
Correct.
And are they able to thoroughly inspect on a timely basis the rescues? And I mean, I just looked up my rescue on the website and I couldn't find anything about how they're regulated. I think they are, but I couldn't find anything.
Speak for PACFA's how they get out there and regulate, but they do have people that get out there and do it. They regulate our shelter. They come and inspect our shelter. So they're tasked to do the organizations of rescues as well.
Okay, and I guess my only point in that question is I'm concerned about the health of all pets. And so I just want to make sure that we're looking and regulating and inspecting all sources of where our pets come from.
Further questions of staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember Zwanek.
Yeah, so following up on that question, so the USDA regulates the sale to nationwide, and in Colorado, is a pet store required to have the same sign off as the shelter is? from, what did you say was PAFTA?
PACFA. It's not the exact same, but yes, it is. In the PACFA regulations, theirs is a little different than the actual shelter, but they have their own set of standards and then a yearly inspection to go through.
So pet stores are required to only purchase animals from USDA regulated and in Colorado, PAFTA. Say, what is it? I'm sorry, I can't.
PACFA, yes, that's
PACFA.
correct, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have those regulations. I don't run PACFA's
Does anybody
inspections.
know if pet store operators in Colorado are required to only purchase animals that are regulated by PAFTA or whatever?
That's correct, 100%.
Okay.
If you buy from somebody in the state of Colorado, you can only.
Oh, hey. We're not taking comments from the audience. It's the staff.
Okay, so, Mayor, if I can, all of the pet stores, so this ordinance would not allow any pet store, regardless if they comply with all of the current regulations that are on the book whatsoever, to purchase puppies from licensed breeders, period.
So this would not allow, that's correct, this would not allow them to purchase puppies and cats from commercial breeders. They could partner with a rescue or with a shelter to provide those animals. And then as part of your other question, within the state, breeders are regulated by PACFA. They are required to have that PACFA license. Outside the state, breeders are required to license under the USDA licensing program. And then if there's anything specific to that state, they would need that. But, the pet stores are not required to buy just from Colorado.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions
Mayor.
of staff? Councilmember Coombs.
So to clarify, pet stores can't buy from breeders, but people can still buy their pets from breeders in the city of Aurora.
That's correct. This ordinance would not ban direct sales for private breeders to, to consumers.
Further questions of staff?
I have one more, Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen.
So rescues in Colorado that are taking animals from out of state, are they regulated the same way?
Yes.
From USDA?
No, from PACFA.
Even if they come across state lines?
Correct. As soon as it comes into the state lines and the rescue is a PACFA licensed rescue, then PACFA will be involved.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, a motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Jurenski.
motion to approve item 13C.
Been moved by Councilmember Jurenski, seconded by
Marcano.
Councilmember Marcano to approve item number 14B.
13C.
I'm sorry, 13B.
13C.
Ouch. Item number 13C, I get ahead of myself here. Item number 13C. Further discussion?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I am not going to be supporting this. I understand that there are some issues with private pet stores, as has been described tonight, but I don't think that's a reason to just shut down an entire business or businesses or type of business. If Tesla wanted to build a car dealership in Aurora, are we going to say no because the strip mining that happens off the backs of child laborers in Africa, they can't build a dealership in Aurora? I just don't understand that. To me, what we should do is come up with an appropriate set of regulations. It sounds like there is a governing body or something that regulates private breeders and shelters and things like this. Why don't we have some type of structure in place for commercial pet stores? I don't want to go down the road of every time there's something that we don't like in an industry just saying, well, we're not going to have that industry anymore. If the clothes we're wearing are made off the backs of child laborers in Mongolia, are we going to not allow that store in Aurora anymore? If somebody dies because of unsafe working conditions, are we not going to allow home building anymore in Aurora? Like this road we are going down of saying, well, because we don't like something that happens, we're not going to allow it anymore. That's a slippery slope that I'm not interested in going down.
Mayor.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Jurenski.
Yeah, so we're not actually saying no to a private pet business in Aurora, and currently there's not even one. I think that this would be a little bit different of a conversation for me. If this even affected one current business owner in the city of Aurora, it doesn't. We have many private pet stores in Aurora. One very successful one, Pet Palace, which we have squabbled about before, and I had to stand up for them one time before, and I had a very long conversation with them over the weekend, and they explained to me why they aren't selling dogs and cats, and they used to even sell, small animals and birds, and they don't even do that anymore, and they have an extremely successful pet business, private pet business in the city of Aurora. What we are saying no to is the sale of puppies and kittens, and I guess for me, I wish sometimes people cared about dogs and cats as much as they cared about other humans. I just recently saw the movie Sound of Freedom, and what we heard here tonight sounds much to me like maybe not human trafficking, but dog trafficking. And I am not even willing to risk these conditions. I've been here my whole life. I remember Pet City, and them being shut down for their taxes is probably the least of my concerns. I remember going to the Aurora Mall. I had a job in the Aurora Mall, and these dogs were stepping over each other. They were trampling over each other. They would just whine and cry. They were trapped inside a cage, inside a store, inside a mall, and I never saw the light of day. I even asked one time if those dogs were being taken out on walks and was looked at like I was a crazy person. And so for me, I am not willing to risk anything with puppy mills, and I think your idea is a good one. So I think we should pass this ordinance and come up with better regulations for our shelters in Aurora. That's where I stand.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so there is the possibility that this will impact businesses. We heard from a business owner tonight in Centennial, and we heard from several public commenters that said, I hope Aurora can be a leader on this and that other municipalities would follow suit. So if other municipalities follow suit, it will impact that other business, and I'm not willing to go down that road.
Councilmember Zvonek.
Thanks, Mayor. So I agree with the intent of this ordinance. The idea of we need to stop pet stores from being able to buy from puppy mills. I don't actually think this will do it. And I agree with Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Gardner that this will have an impact on businesses beyond Aurora. And I think that while the intent is good, that this isn't the solution for a lack of enforcement of existing regulations, which is essentially what it is. So I'll be a no vote.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Joinski.
I understand that we have a business owner here tonight from the city of Centennial, but every single one of us was elected to serve the people of Aurora, and I just want to remind you all of that. I don't think that this will have any effect on that gentleman's store in Centennial.
Further discussion? I'm sorry. Councilmember Bergen.
Oh, is somebody else first?
I'm sorry. I think it's you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to support this, but I'm supporting it with some hesitancy just because I think there's a loophole in the rescues that maybe are not as well regulated. We don't know every single rescue is operating under all the strictest, regulations and licensing and making sure that they have clean conditions for all their animals. So I am supporting it, but I think overall we need to be looking at, regulating a lot more than just pet stores and making sure that the pets that come from out of state, for example, are really, sorry, my dog's barking, regulated. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of item number 13C. Call for the question.
Councilmember Murillo. Councilmember Murillo.
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes to adopt item 13C, introduction of ordinance 2023-39.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 14A.
Item 14A is finalizing of ordinance 2023-35, adding a section to the city code authorizing a reserve police force. And Mayor, we do have individuals who would like to speak on this item.
Very well.
The first person is Anas Moxie, followed by Tanya Tabachek.
Hello, City Council. Hello, Mayor. My name is M.S. Moxie. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Bryce Star Protective Services, which is a security company. In the city of Aurora, there's many security companies around. And I noticed that you guys want to basically give us to sponsor police force, reserve. Security companies in Aurora, they are ready to help to put their employees into with the city of Aurora to be on the reserve. And then my company is one of them. So that's basically how it is.
Thank you.
Tanya Tabachek, followed by Aaron Bagali. Oh, okay. So then Aaron Bagali.
Sorry, I made a wrong one. Good evening, City Council. My name is Aaron Bagali. I actually served as a reserve police officer with the City of Aurora until the program was terminated in 1999. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of the program and why it is a wonderful thing to have. One of the first things I can tell you is that I understand that Aurora, like a lot of police departments, has a shortage of officers at this point in time. And that's unfortunate. And one of the great things about bringing in reserve officers is it increases the diversity in the department. When I was a reserve officer with Aurora, we had doctors, we had lawyers, we had a couple of dentists. I guess those are doctors also. We had guys on the department, on the unit that were captains, big guys in business. A couple of people that were high up at US West at the time, and I think about myself that I was young at the time, but now I'm almost 50 years old, and the opportunity to come back to the department, volunteer my time, use my skills in financial services to maybe help this people of Aurora sounds wonderful. I don't want to be on patrol 40 hours a week as a full-time police officer. I've got a full-time job that I love, I'm very good at, and I take seriously, but it gives me the ability to give back to the community. And that's something that the reserve unit provided in Aurora and was lost during the budget cuts back in '99. So for that reason, I think having the program, bringing it back, will really benefit the city of Aurora, and I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanya Tabachek.
Hi, I'm in support of this. The only thing additionally that I would like to add is the education and training, and more specifically, training and guidance with people with special needs that don't have the ability to communicate clearly to the officers. I am a sister of a brother that will say police or good job. He can't clearly say, something's wrong. You have to really listen and hear what he's saying. So as long as the proper training, the education, that not just with people's mental health and so forth, but those that cannot clearly communicate to people that are easily, like I can't say I'm hurting or someone's bothering me, that I would support this. Thank you.
That was the last individual.
Very well. Brief presentation on item number 14A.
Mayor, Council, thanks. Pete Schulte, Public Safety Client Manager of the City Attorney's Office.
Just as a reminder from the study session to the first reading that happened a couple weeks ago, we have already limited the restart of the program to the 5 areas that we talked about, one being a current city employee, can be a reserve, a person associated with the tactical medic program, whether or not they're a city employee, so a doctor involved with that program. Something that I know the police department's excited about is a person participating in the cadet program that's coming on board next year for the police department. Another is a former city employee retired in good standing and would otherwise be eligible for rehire. And then the catch-all for other full-time law enforcement individuals that have now moved on to better things, I use the air quotes on that, but they left their prior law enforcement agency in good standing, had at least 5 years of law enforcement experience, had no prior disciplinary history greater than a written reprimand, and is fully post-certified as a Colorado Basic Peace Officer. So, and again, for the purposes of good standing, means that the person left or retired from employment on their own accord, not under investigation or in lieu of termination.
Very well. Questions of staff?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Why is the fire department not here to speak on this item since it impacts them, or are we just going to let the police speak for them? He just said tactical rescue team. Or tactical.
It doesn't mean it's necessarily the firefighters. We could have paramedics from other agencies. Nothing in the ordinance as written, Mayor Pro Tem, would actually require the firefighters to go through this. I'll be honest, I've talked to Chief Otten since this ordinance has gone through. He is not supportive of his firefighters carrying weapons. That is a policy decision that he can make, but that could always change. So the best advice from the city attorney's office is keep the ordinance at a higher level, but then use policy to make those determinations for the employees.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I know he's not in favor of this, and I'm not in favor of it either. I don't want a firefighter who is to provide medical service anywhere near carrying a gun. Those are two completely different things, and the mindset and the personality that you need to do one is not analogous to the other. I'm glad that he's going to make that change in the policy to not allow our firefighters to participate in this program. Again, I don't think they should be anywhere near it. But my hope is that in the future, when we are bringing something forward, because this has been an ongoing pattern where we have things that are impacting the fire department that are brought by the police department, and we don't have the fire department here to weigh in because they weren't ever asked to weigh in. They are an equal member of public safety, and this happened with Civil Service Commission changes, this happened with charter changes. It continues to be an ongoing thing, and my hope is that in the future we would involve the fire department when it impacts them.
Further discussion? Questions of staff?
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
just to echo Mayor Pro Tem Gardner's comment, I am glad to hear that Aurora Fire Rescue is making a change in policy. I do wish that we would have their input for future.
Mayor, I'd like to address that.
Chief.
Mayor Chairman and Councilmember, I appreciate the comments, but we did, in fact, engage the fire department. I think that subsequent to a meeting that we had where we left with one understanding, the chief made his, rightfully so, his decision at this time not to have his paramedics that are part of our medics with the SWAT team be armed. But that was a policy decision he made. But we did have meetings with the command staff, with the fire department. And so I would recommend that we leave it in terms of having firefighters from other agencies that maybe want to be part of a SWAT medic program, because I think that in a world where the difference between a hot zone, a cold zone, and a warm zone can change very quickly in these very dynamic situations, those that want to have the training, that want to actually get the certification, it would not be a bad practice to have. It's something that happens in other cities across the country, and very successfully.
Good. Further discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember
I just want to ask a question of staff, and to be clear, this is voluntary, right?
Correct.
Yeah, nothing in the ordinance,
Nobody's
Councilmember
being compelled to do this.
Correct. It is completely voluntary, and again, the way the ordinance is drafted is if a city employee who's currently employed, that's one of the groups that can do it, they'd have to get the approval of their director. So that's part of the process to make sure it's completely voluntary.
Further discussion? Questions of staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
Oh, well, it's discussion, not questions of staff, so should I wait? Okay. So I think that this can be something that really benefits the community and that benefits the relationship between the community and the police department. I really thank Councilmember Drinsky for already accepting amendments to the ordinance, and Chief Acevedo and Mr. Schulte for having a lot of conversations about it leading up to this. That being said, I am concerned about another set of stakeholders that we haven't really engaged, and that's the members of our community who are impacted by the issues that have been raised within the consent decree. I think we have to be especially sensitive to the issue of, patterns and practices of racially biased policing, excessive use of force. And I don't think we've heard those voices in a robust way. We've had one-off comments here and there. So for me, I would support this if we have those conversations first. I think saying we're going to have those conversations later while we're doing the rulemaking, I don't think we have the trust of the community to do that well, given the history, and I don't think we have the trust of the community either to say, trust us that we're going to vet well and train well, given the issues we've historically had. So I am assuming this will likely pass regardless of my vote. I will be holding town halls with community members to get that feedback. And anyone who would like to participate in that is welcome to do so. But just given the feedback I've had on those issues of trust within the community, I'm not going to be able to support this on the second reading.
Chief, can you respond to that? Because I think there's an assumption that this training is not going to be also applied to reserve officers.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that from our standpoint, we'd be happy to commit, and maybe you want to, from our standpoint, Mayor, council member, we would be happy to commit, and maybe you want to have an amendment that we don't want to do the work to put the program of policies with a bandwidth together if we're not going to have a program. So I would be more than happy to commit to coming back through public safety when we have all our policies promulgated after your meetings with the community, and then you all can come back a second time before we operationalize a program. I think it's a win-win. We will know that there's support in the council. We know that the work will not be in vain. It'll be work that will have a value added to the organization in terms of our capabilities, and that the council will know that you will have a final look again at the policies before we operationalize them in the future.
And Mayor, just a little bit about that as well. Somebody, obviously me being very involved with the consent decree monitor in the process, anything that has to do with use of force and so forth has to be approved by the consent decree monitor. So we'll be running those policies through them as well. So if that's helpful to have a secondary set of eyes, independent of the department, independent from my office, that they'll be doing that as well. We want to be, Chief has talked to me about being very transparent in this process to make sure that all those conditions and all those issues are resolved so we can make this successful.
Yeah, may I add one couple more comments? Good, Mayor. Thank you. I had a former lieutenant from the reserve program reach out to us. I think he also reached out to our public safety chair. And I think that this individual just spoke is a really prime example of some of the other benefits. If we get individuals that they didn't leave for better, they live for different, opportunities. They have people from different industries that pass the background, pass the actual training. I think it can have a real positive influence on our officers. I've seen it in other departments, that's just reserves, but also like senior volunteer programs, where this man that just spoke that used to be a reserve can actually talk to our officers and encourage them to plan for retirement. Just a different perspective besides just the police department, a bunch of full-timers hearing from each other. They get to get, I think, a wide range of community members that want to make a difference and that want to give back. And I'm already starting to get calls. I have not, my email's pretty public. I haven't received any negative feedback yet. And I'm very happy to go to any town halls or any meetings you want to have to discuss it. But I think there's going to be a lot of win-wins. These guys are not going to, ladies are not going to be going out and just going out in pursuits and this other stuff. They're going to help with parades and special events. And if they have special skills, they'll help, like a financial individual. Imagine financial crime, something that is not well investigated to the full extent. We might be able to get some really good additional help in helping our individuals with these other specialized investigations as well.
Mayor.
Councilmember Lawson.
Yeah, Chief Acevedo. So some of the things that I've been hearing from community members is, and I'm a little concerned about what you said about getting some outside volunteers that are not really, that are from maybe other agencies possibly, is really the vetting of these individuals. Because that has been somewhat of a problem in Aurora, and I think there's a lot of concern from members that I've heard in the community as well, is who are these individuals that are going to be out here on the street? And you know, sometimes when a drill-in happens, I'm not a police officer, but of course, but what is this other individual going to do? They're going to have a trained officer, but there's concerns because of who the person could be. So the vetting is, to me, what I've been hearing of the individuals who are going to be the volunteers.
Please proceed.
Does this keep going off? Won't touch it? Okay, sorry. May I respond? So the vetting is, those concerns, I think, are very legitimate concerns. If you look at some departments around the country, reserve programs were nothing more than political patronage, where they actually gave badges to people that they gave them, like some of these elected sheriffs across the country, that provided them with political donations. That is not the case here. These individuals will be fully vetted. They'll go through full backgrounds like any other individual that comes from the outside to our organization. And quite honestly, if there's any question, they will not be hired in terms of into the program. They will have no rights, so I commented that comment one and done type of thing, but this is not a civil service position where, you know, you're going to have the union screaming bloody murder no matter what the individual may have done. And we're going to hold them to very high standards and very close supervision. They're not going to be out running around playing Batman Robin in our city. That's not what it's about. And so I think the proof is in the pudding, and when we have these policies, should the council support the concept of the reserve program, once we present them to you, I think a lot of the concerns will be I think, addressed in our policies.
Yeah, and Councilmember Lawson, the other thing that one of the background that's required to do from post is that anybody who's left a full-time law enforcement job for something different, then our background investigators, APD's background investigators, are required to go to that department and look at the file. So we're not going to have these situations where somebody could, sneak out of a law enforcement agency and say, "Oh no, I left in good standing." When you go to their file and you pull out and you see all these complaints that were in there. So again, it's the policy that the APD is wanting, that that the city attorney's office is going to help draft, is going to be required that the background check be identical to any lateral applicant that we have, that we're going to be putting full-time on the streets of the city of Aurora protecting our citizens, if that helps.
And I'm hopeful it's going to help with our recruitment, that some folks will become reserves. They want to have a foot in while they don't give up their current career. And I'm very hopeful. I believe it's really going to help with recruitment. And one of the things that I want to think about is if someone does a good job, has a couple of years on the reserve program, they want to transition to full-time, how can we give them some kind of points or some kind of consideration in terms of the hiring process to go to the full academy? That's one of the criticisms for the lieutenant. The former lieutenant that I spoke with today was that they really felt that these individuals came prove themselves for 2, 3, 4 years. Then when they wanted to become full-time officers, there was no consideration in terms of a benefit to actually transition to the full-time academy and become a full-time employee. So I think it's a great way to vet people for full-time jobs as well with the department.
Further questions?
Mayor.
Discussion? Councilmember Jurenski.
I'm just reading the room, and without my colleague Sundberg here to vote tonight, I think it's probably best to table this for 2 weeks. Just like I said, in reading the room, I'm not going to let this fail, so.
Do you mean the motion?
Continue it, yep.
For 2 weeks?
Yes, I think it's necessary, just judging by my colleague's comments,
Okay, very well.
without Councilmember Sundberg's vote.
Second.
Motion to continue by Councilmember Jurenski, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Gardner. Discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember McConnell.
Thank you, sir. Since we have Chief Acevedo here, I just wanted to get clarification on a comment you made, and that is that you will not begin the program until council signs off on the policy, and that's after having community help stakehold that process as well and getting feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you want to have legitimacy, one of the mistakes that law enforcement makes sometimes on issues critical to the community is not having community input, and I'd be very happy to have that community input as part of our process in developing the policy. So should it pass today, a program's not going to be operationalized or go operational until we look at the policies.
With several months, maybe even up to a year, even if it passed today.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the motion to continue to 2 weeks from now? Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the motion to continue for 2 weeks.
The motion passes to continue this item to the next regular council meeting.
Okay. Very well. Would the clerk now please read the top to item number 15A?
Item 15A is Resolution 2023-96, finding a petition for annexation of a certain parcel of land located in Section 7, Township 3 South, Range 64 West of the 6th Principal Meridian, County of Adams, State of Colorado, to be in substantial compliance with Section 31-12-1071 CRS and giving notice of a public hearing on the proposed annexation.
Brief presentation by staff.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. For the record, I'm Jacob Cox, Manager of Development Assistance for the city. A petition for annexation was filed with the clerk's office for annexation of a 653-acre parcel owned by Chelsea Investments, LLC. This parcel is located at the northeast corner of 56th and Bowden Road. Attached vicinity map in your packet materials. The annexation process follows state law, and annexations are considered over 3 council meetings. Tonight's agenda item, the first meeting in that process, in which City Council considers approval of the resolution making the finding that that petition is in substantial compliance with statutory requirements and setting that public hearing date, which is set for September 25th. No outside presentation, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, we do have an individual on the public call-in line who would like to speak.
Very well.
Annie, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Danny, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Are you there? You're live. Danny, one more time. Are you there? You have 3 minutes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hello? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't find out about this item agenda until today, which is concerning. So I own a property. I co-own it with my sister and another individual located next to it. And it's located in Aurora. And I have had nothing but problems with the city of Aurora. The city of Aurora, the police never respond to anything that I call on, and there's been many problems. There are 3 board members of the Aurora Economic Development Council that are directly involved with the financial gain of this first reorganization or rezoning Rita Connerly, Lee Ramsey, and Ken Parcelli. The enclosed map in your packet has my parcel enclosed by County Road 24 by the surveyor's certificate. The surveyor's certificate that's enclosed reads it as County Road 24. The only place where County Road, I don't even know what County Road 24 would be. I guess that would be Watkins Road. The only place where I see that is a problem that we can't get corrected or, on Google Earth. Ian Cortez, who is the Adams County right-of-way supervisor, sent a letter to the Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety for the state of Colorado, stating that they've done an extensive study about whether there's a right-of-way for Watkins Road or 64th Avenue around our property, and there is not a right-of-way. So Kelly Trucking owns a portion next to the Chelsea property, which the Economic Development Council Board of Directors, Lee Ramsey, is a portion of, and Rita Connerly is
Then you need to wrap it up.
Rita Connerly is an attorney for Lee Ramsey and Kelly Trucking, and they're trying to, your maps are wrong, your information is wrong, you provide no support through the years, you're opening.
Your time is up. You've reached your 3 minutes. Thank you.
That was the only individual.
Very well. Brief presentation by staff. I'm sorry.
This is a finding of substantial compliance on the resolution that it meets statutory requirements to set the public hearing date for September 25th.
Very well. Questions of staff?
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
and maybe this is for the caller. As stated by staff, by Brian, that this is the first of 3 meetings, and this basically is just a petition for annexation, which legally, if they meet the compliance, we're required, my understanding is we're required to approve it.
This is basically just setting the public hearing for that September hearing date, and that will be the public hearing in which you will also see the zoning ordinance presented. And we'll state the facts of the annexation at that date.
Okay. Further questions of staff? Seeing none, motion is in order.
Mayor, motion to approve 15A.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by
Zvonik.
Councilmember Zvonik to approve item number 15A. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, the question before us is the adoption of item number 15A. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt item 15A, Resolution 2023-96.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 16A.
Item 16A is Resolution 2023-84, supporting the appropriation of general fund revenues to develop an economic development plan.
Very well. I want to thank members for reaching out to me and having, I think, fruitful discussions about economic development in our city. This is something that we cannot outsource to business leaders, although I regard them as very important. We need to develop an economic plan, an economic vision for this city that benefits all of the residents of our city and not just the business community. And so I'm going to want to continue these discussions with you, and I'm going to withdraw this and bring it back 2 weeks from now. Councilmember Jurenski to 14A.
Mayor, And City Attorney's Office, I believe that you have to vote on this, is that correct?
No.
No.
No?
So, this matter was tabled.
Okay.
It requires a majority of council to take it off the table. The mayor used his prerogative to put it on the agenda.
Okay,
So he can use his prerogative in 2 weeks to put it on the agenda again.
okay. Thank you.
Mayor, question.
Please proceed.
This is for the city attorney. So if any member can put anything on the agenda per their prerogative, then what is the point of following O. Garfield Jones rules? It defeats the purpose. We might as well just throw it in the trash.
Again, you can, it still requires a majority vote to take it off the table.
So we didn't vote on to take it off the table.
Correct.
So we can't hear it in 2 weeks until we have that vote.
So in 2 weeks, again, it still requires a majority to take it off the table. The mayor's just putting it on the agenda.
Got it.
Councilmember Jurenski.
Is this to go back to 14A?
Yes.
Well, I don't see Councilmember Sundberg back on here, so I think we'll just wait for 2 weeks. He wanted to be able to vote. He feels bad that he couldn't vote, but we'll wait for 2 weeks.
Reports, mayor has no report. Councilmember Lawson.
Mayor, can you go over me? Can you skip me? I just need to find my report. I'm so sorry.
Very well. Councilmember Jurenski.
I just would like to report that I think it's really sad that you just pulled that. With all of these people here tonight, I think we're ready to have the conversation. You've been ready to have the conversation. You have brought this to us several times. Their numbers keep growing every week to have this conversation, and you're wasting a lot of people's time. So I'm just would like to report that I am really sad that we're going to bring this back in 2 weeks again and waste everybody's time.
Mayor Pro Tem Gardner.
No report.
Councilmember Zvonek.
No report.
Councilmember Murillo.
Thanks, Mayor. I have my town hall next Thursday, August 24th. After a couple-month break, we'll be hearing from the Highline Canal Conservancy and from Xcel Energy on Northwest Aurora Alley lighting. Please stop by. We'll be at the MLK Library.
Councilmember Sundberg is not available. Councilmember Medina.
No report.
Let's see. Councilmember McConnell.
Sec, Mayor. There we go. All right, sorry, I was having some microphone issues there. So in lieu of our August Ward 4 meeting, Governor Polis came to town and had a listening session over at the Aurora Public Schools Administration Building that was attended by hundreds of Aurorans. So I want to thank everyone who came out to that event. There were a lot of really common themes centering around the need for housing affordability, higher wages, more reliable and frequent public transportation, and more efficient response to public safety issues. So I want to thank everyone who came out to that. Our next Ward 4 meeting is going to be Thursday, September 14th at Colorado Early Colleges at 6:30 p.m. We're going to be covering Vision Zero and how we can have safer streets in Aurora, which is especially relevant now given that we have a record number of traffic fatalities and accidents this year. So I hope to see you all then.
Councilmember Coombs.
Thank you, Mayor. So first, want to let folks know that city council members, staff, and other local officials will be going on the water tour tomorrow and Wednesday to learn about our water system. This weekend on Saturday, in addition to Global Fest, there's also the Meadowwood Festival that happens annually, and that is at across from Meadowwood Park. That's on the 19th, starting, I believe, at 11 a.m. Yes, that's correct. And then finally, my town hall for this month is on August 22nd, and the schedule already was to have police and fire leadership at that meeting at 6 p.m. At Heather Gardens, so at the clubhouse. So hopefully I'll be able to coordinate with folks to make that a discussion on this police reserve force so that we can get some community feedback. And then I will also try to work on an additional discussion, kind of town hall listening session on that item, and hopefully we can have those before that meeting on the 28th. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming back to me. For my federal, state, and intergovernmental relations report, Congress is out of session until September, but we are currently watching as the budget process unfolds as the federal fiscal year closes September 30th. In the Colorado State Legislature, the interim committees have started meeting to discuss potential legislation for 2024. We are tracking progress on several committees. As a reminder, the Federal, State, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee will meet this Friday, August 18th at 11 a.m., and we will hear from CDHS on juvenile bed space. City of Aurora, we've already talked about this, but the Global Fest will be Saturday from 11 to 6 at the Aurora Municipal Center. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to just say thank you to my nonpartisan volunteers that worked really hard to help me get my petitions in. I picked them up on Wednesday and turned them in on Thursday morning. So thank you again to all my volunteers. And then secondly, just want to announce that the Nordstrom Rack grand opening is this Thursday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're going to be giving out prizes, and there's a drawing for $1,000 gift cards. So that's very exciting. And then lastly, I do want to announce that I am going to be scheduling a community meeting for the tollgate crossing community for the concerns that have recently arisen over public safety. The date is August 23rd, and it'll be at the Southeast Recreation Center from 7 p.m. to 8:30, and we'll get that out on social media. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.